Right Honourable Speaker, I thank you, distinguished honourable members. Let me once again say that, Mr. Speaker, for purposes of clearance, that this is a motion that we have discussed at the level of leadership, and is given Kano only as a case study, but it's a motion that has every good intent to every other state that is affected by COVID-19 one way or the other. It is therefore a motion for and on behalf of each and every one of us here, and I beg your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, that at the end of my submission, every other member, especially as perhaps the state caucus leaders, should also be allowed to speak and give us their own experience, which I believe is part of the reasons why we reconvene to address this serious problem, just for the purposes of clearance. And I therefore read.
I'm not sure we'll be able to allow that many state caucuses. That's 36 people debating the motion. So I think the motion is more than likely enough to carry the motion. Yes. So go ahead.
The House notes that index COVID-19 case was recorded in February 27, 2020. Aware that the country has so far recorded 1,337 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 40 days cases, and 255 recoveries. Equally mindful that federal government has released the sum of 5 billion Aware that country has so far recorded 1,337 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 40 test cases, and 255 recoveries. Equally mindful that the federal government has released the sum of 5 billion to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to scale up capacity and strategize rapid response to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Worried by the rising spate of unexplained deaths in Kano State in recent weeks, where 77 COVID-19 cases and 1 death case have been recorded in less than 2 weeks. Aware that Kano State, being the most populated state of the Federation and a cosmopolitan city, according to the National Population Commission, has only one testing center which has been shut down for about a week now, reportedly due to lack of some testing materials and reagents. Concerned that Nigeria has so far tested a paltry number of 10,918 of estimated 200 million population, whereas Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt, which with much lower population have tested over 168,622 cases, and 90,000 of their people respectively. Aware that Nigeria currently has the capacity of 3,000 tests in a day, whereas the South Africa has nearly 10,000 test capacity per day. Concern that Nigeria has only 15 testing centers on one each in Kano, Sokoto, Borno, Kaduna, Plateau, Osun, Edo, and Ebonyi states, 2 in the FCT and 3 in Lagos State. Conscious of the fact that whereas sample collections and transportation remain a critical challenge in Nigeria's fight against COVID-19, according to NCDC, Ghana has since engaged the services of drone technology to the delivery of samples to help save lives more quickly, and drones also have the capacity to deliver test kits and personal protection equipment. Convinced of the urgent need to arrest the rising cases of unexplained deaths in Kano State, and also scale of national response initiative to the coronavirus pandemic, including the establishment of at least one testing center in every state of the Federation to save the nation from the grave scenario being witnessed today in Kano State. Appreciate the actions taken by the Federal Republic of Nigeria as contained in the recent national broadcast by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. The House resolves that to summon the DG NCDC, Honorable Minister, and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force to appear before it at plenary on Tuesday, May 5, 2020, to brief it on government response initiative to the COVID-19 pandemic and its template for the intervention in all the states of the Federation. Urge the federal government to, as a matter of urgency and priority, scale up the nation's COVID-19 testing capacity nationwide. Call on the NCDC to adopt creatively proactive modern approaches and technologies in the management of COVID-19 pandemic. 4, to investigate the immediate and remote causes of the unexplained huge number of deaths in Kano State and other affected states. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
I represent Martin Monguno, Gaza Federal Constituency of Borno State. I second the motion ably moved by the leader of the House.
And indeed the members of the House for allowing me this opportunity to not only relay my experience and the experience of the people of Kano State on these green chambers, but to also share in grief the widespread crisis of COVID-19 in the nation. Your Excellency, the Speaker, right honorable members, the case we have in Kano today is worrisome. The case we have in Kano at hand, Mr. Speaker, is alarming. Some people call it disaster. Some others call it a calamity. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, based on my personal experience of what is actually happening in the state, that the case at hand in Kano is not only a disaster. It is not only calamitous, Mr. Speaker, it is catastrophic. It is catastrophic, not only going by the number of days we record on a daily basis, the huge number of human lives that we lost, especially to a disease that is yet unknown. Of course, notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, some of the deaths we recorded may not be unrelated or unconnected with the COVID-19 infection. But it is believed, even by the medical professional in the state, that there must be something behind or aside the COVID-19. Thank God the state government and the governor, and indeed the federal government, have also taken recent steps to investigate and find out what actually is that extra cause for this unfortunate loss of our loved ones in the state. Mr. Speaker, let me say that while this House gathers to discuss this problem on these green chambers, it is not about Kano alone. It is about the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I believe in each and every state that we have in the Federation, you have 1 or 2 cases of COVID-19. Even in the cases of those few states that have not gotten any index case yet, I want to believe ordinarily as a layman that there might be such cases in existence. Unfortunately, because we don't have enough sufficient testing centers in some of the states, you may not know who else is affected or otherwise. It is on this ground that, Mr. Speaker, I rise to seek the indulgence of this House to tell you that the 24 members of the House of Representatives from our dear state, Kano, and indeed your dear state, Kano, we are today on our knees to seek the indulgence of this House, to ride on the instrumentality of this institution of the House of Representatives, to beg and crave the indulgence and urgent intervention of one, the federal government, international donors, to help us wade into these circumstances to be able to save the lives of our people. Kano is such an implicative state. If you look at it from its situation in terms of commercial nerve center of the northern part of the country, even our social relations, the whole of the other states of the north are connected to Kano State one way or the other. Consider the over 2 million, 20 million people we have there. We need a very swift intervention. Mr. Speaker, we need the support of this House and the support of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to swift into action by collaborating with the state governor and the government of the state to see to the end of this crisis. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid the way we are going in Kano, if care is not taken, the ravages we are undergoing may be worse than Boko Haram. Boko Haram, like you said in your own opening remarks, they kill through the gun, they kill through aggression, but this one kills people silently, with a choked up population, especially in the ancient city of Kano, where you have in just one local government over 600 polling units. Dala local government, for instance, is the biggest local government in terms of population and number of polling units. 600 polling units in one local government. And these are people who are jam-packed in, unfortunately, an unpalatable accommodation system. We have this problem existing for long. This has also made things worse. The season, for instance, is the hot season. Transition between the mild season of cold season into the hot season, perhaps subsequently the rainy season. In the past, we used to experience this kind of circumstances at this epochal period. But the number of days, the huge number we are recording today, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, is unprecedented. It is not about political parties. I hear people say a lot of things about the governor or the government, or even the people. The governor is human. Those of us who are representing the people of the state in Nigeria, in the Federal House of Representatives here, as their own representative, we are also human. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me use this apolitical platform, despite our political affiliations to say that the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, and specifically in Kano, has got nothing to do with political affiliation. It does not respect party politics. It does not respect tribe. It doesn't respect religion. After all, you can all bear with me that Kano is one of those states that you must call unavoidably a cosmopolitan city. We have huge number of Yorubas, Mr. Speaker. Some of them are from Surulere. They reside in Kano. It's their second home. We have nothing about it. We have the Igbos. Some of them are from Enugu, some from Delta. The Delta Igbos are there residing in Kano. They are our people, and they are Kano indigenous. We have Edo people. And among the Edo people, the leader of the Edo communities, the chief of the Edo communities in Lagos, is a senior brother to Sergius, who is seated here. We have his brothers and brethren as citizens and indigents of Kano State. It is on this ground and on this note, Mr. Speaker, that I want to urge each and every one of us to look at this case as a holistic case that affects the Federal Republic of Nigeria and our great people. Mr. Speaker, allow me to use what you have just said in your remarks, not to stand in the risk of plagiarizing. We must have to join hands. We have to join hands with all forces, within and without Nigeria. We have to join forces with global agents and organizations who are out to fight this unfortunate pandemic. And our resolve to join hands with them, our commitment to fight this pandemic, like you have rightly said, Mr. Speaker, has to be absolute. It has to be absolute. No two way about it. The business of every government in the globe is about the protection of the lives and welfare of the people you govern. The moment that is lost, then government is out of place. Mr. Speaker, it is on this note, and on behalf of the people of Kano State and the government of Kano State, that I still have to commend the efforts recently made by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for scaling up engagement. He has already this morning dispatched a delegation of expert medical doctors, a team of about 42 of them. They are already in Kano. Mr. Speaker, by your leave, as we discussed in the morning, we will be a few members from Kano will fly to Kano this afternoon to join this team of experts to see how we can move this case forward. Mr. Speaker, I also have to say, without any fear of contradiction, that my governor, the governor of Kano State, has done the best he could do, and he will continue to do the best to be able to protect the lives of our people. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
That the House should speak with one voice and ask the federal government to intervene, and I believe that is not a problem, but I think that was not captured in your prayers. That should come as an amendment to the resolutions that the federal government should intervene, and I don't believe that should be a problem. So on several principles of constitutional principles, it was done in Lagos State, it was done in the Federal Capital Territory, and the principles of equality of states and equal protection and equal treatment, I don't think that should be a problem, but it will have to come by way of amendment so that we can pass it as a resolution. Honorable Toby.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu and I represent an area of Wojiriba Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think the motion and the prayers are very clear. But I must commiserate and extend the condolences of our colleagues, my constituents, to the people of Kano State on the inexplicable and unexplained deaths in Kano. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think first and foremost, we must be very clear that it is Kano today, it could be another state. But what we should not be waiting for is to be waiting for another state for the coronavirus to escalate and we begin to intervene. Mr. Speaker, we have to be proactive. And more importantly, we need to get our messaging right. A situation where you have about 640 people that has died and is inescapable, you cannot explain it. It speaks to the absence of focus, the absence of leadership. If there is anything that is happening to our citizens to that tune, hundreds of deaths, we should be able to know. Now, we do not know whether it is coronavirus. With some associated with malaria, others associated with other ailments. But, Mr. Speaker, the class of people, the age of people that are dying in Kano cannot be explained otherwise. So we must face the facts. We must also have to get to our people to know that this is real. The messaging. Whoever they hear, whether they are the clerics or whoever, we must have to get it right. And I think this has to be domiciled in every part of the Federation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the fact that the testing center in Kano is not working is a pointer to the fact that we can't get it right. NCDC has to be proactive. If you are not testing, how do you determine why people have died? How do you know how people have been affected? As a matter of fact, the issue of testing is the foremost on how to prevent, because when you test, you isolate. You avoid a situation where it escalates. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is the very point in time that we are thinking caps. It is better that we import test kits from China than importing Chinese. We need to import test kits. Unfortunately, a few days ago, the NCDC were advertising on Twitter for intervention. And they're advertising where they want to get lab. We need to know what else we have to do. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this president spoke, and we appreciate his intervention in Kano. We should get ready for other states. You have alluded to it, to the fact that there is quality of states. We don't have to wait for a situation to escalate in a particular area before we intervene. There must be a framework for everybody. So, also, there should be a local content to our aspirations. Pandemic means that this is worldwide. If it is worldwide, nobody is coming to your aid, Mr. Speaker. If nobody is coming to your aid, what is the local content of what you're doing? I have not heard that experts or scholars have been assembled for this purpose to find a local solution to this problem. We want to hear that. With regard to drugs, with regard to testing, what if we are not able to import anything? Mr. Speaker, there has to be a local content. On the 1st of this month, I wrote an article at the back page of The Sun. Homegrown approach to this issue. We must deal with it. And now we have a situation where the testing, even when you have the centers, you don't have the test kits. We want to know what government-to-government action is to to that effect. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it will be belaboring the obvious to state that the situation in Kano will migrate to other places. Now, what we expect the PTF, Mr. President, is to have a Marshall Plan on what the states can do and the interventions federal government can bring. If we need to domesticate testing for states, let us train people and get it done. We cannot expose our citizens to this level of jeopardy. And we are just modeling through. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we must be united in this because it is a threat and nobody is coming to our aid. So while we support the leader's motion on the invitation of the people who are responsible and the fact that there has to be an amendment to prevent this by having a framework and equal treatment for all states of the Federation, I support this motion and I call my colleagues to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Toby. Last time you have to put it in context. I'm saying what I said was that there was an outbreak, major outbreak, a calamity almost in Lagos State and in FCT, and federal government intervened. There's no doubt there's an outbreak and a calamity in Kano, and therefore they should be given equal treatment. I'm not saying that every state, all 36 states, if you have one or you have none, that the same kind of intervention, there must be levels of intervention, but they should be treated equally within the context of whatever their outbreak is. Honestly, there's a problem with all this face masks. Yes, it's very difficult to recognize who is who.